You're listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and my name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, but you probably already knew that if you've been listening to the podcast for a number of years. I do appreciate you listening, and certainly the people that reach out to me over the net. You're awesome. So, the interview subject that I have coming up for you on this particular installment of the podcast series is Derrick Green. Derrick, of course, is the frontman in Sepultura. He's been there for well over 20 years these days, so for God's sakes, anybody who considers him the new guy in Sepultura, have a listen to that lengthy tenure that he's been in the band for, far longer than Max. And I've got to say, I think Quadra from Sepultura, which will be released on the 7th of February, is likely to be one of their greatest albums, actually. Talk's a big game. Sure you can appreciate, but I actually do feel that way about it. It is a sterling affair. And that's the reason for the conversation with Derrick, and that's to promote this brand new release for 2020, Quadra. So here he is, the man himself, Mr. Derrick Green. Here he is. It's Andy Mackay-Smith calling. Derrick, how you going?
Good. How are you, Andrew?
Oh, I'm very well. It's a sprightly 6 a.m. over here at the moment, and the sky is blue, which isn't such a good thing for this part of the world at the moment, as I'm sure you know.
I understand. I can understand. That's really heart-wrenching.
Yeah, it's not where I am. I'm up north in the subtropics here, and it's mainly down south down there and around Sydney and Melbourne in particular. I mean, we have bushfires every year, but this year they've just been horrific. And
it looks like a nightmare.
Yeah, it's just been. Oh man, honestly, I don't know what the answer is. Truly,
Right.
I don't think anybody does. The problem is, I'm sure as the coverage is in Brazil and the United States, and I was just talking to JJ from the Stranglers last night. And he's living in France and telling me that there's a lot of coverage over there, but I think a lot of it's quite partisan. So, meaning that it's along political lines insofar as what to do about the situation.
Right.
When this is a almost an existential thing that's happening. So there's parts of Australia that we simply just can't live in anymore. I don't think.
Right.
So,
Wow.
but who has the answers to these things? Who knows?
Definitely not me in this interview.
Oh, it should get, Derrick Green, his take on current affairs and world events. There you go. Completely different conversation and interview. But no, I won't punish you, mate. Don't worry.
It's all good.
How's the interviews been going, mate? For the promotion of the album here.
It's been great. We've been doing a lot, which is good. We've been wanting to talk about this album, and we're all very excited about it. But it's been fantastic feedback, very positive, and I'm just really looking forward to, fans being able to check it out.
Look, I've got to say, the last few years for the band have just been outstanding. They truly have been. Probably some of the best years in the band's entire career, and that's really saying something. I mean, 2017, we did have a conversation off the back of Machine Messiah, and I actually thought that was one of the best albums from the band. But you've actually released an album that I think is stronger in Quadra. You know that?
And that's good to hear. I mean, that was our goal, is to really kind of step even further with our musicianship. It's like it was really important for us to. We had such great reception from Machine Messiah, and it was such a learning experience to work on that. And it really rubbed off on wanting to go into this next album, Quadra, and try to go above it in many ways. So it was challenging, and at the same time extremely rewarding. It was just very comfortable to work on this on Quadra, and we allowed ourselves enough time to really work on it, which makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And Look, it's got to be said as well. Look, at this point, no one could blame you guys for wanting to take it back a few years, if you know what I'm saying. I mean,
Right.
there's that dreaded legacy band term, if you know what I mean, like legacy band meaning established act that can just sort of keep on touring off established glories. But mate,
Right.
I feel as though you guys are really actually laying down the gauntlet to, when I say younger bands, you know what I mean, like Suicide Silence,
Yeah.
Sabaton, and Amon Amarth, and you're issuing a very polite reminder here, or maybe not so polite reminder, that don't fuck with Sepultura in some ways. I mean, this.
Absolutely. I mean, it was going in with that attitude, honestly, I mean, we really have been playing and touring for so long, in so many different places of the world, but we never really wanted to stop evolving as a band and musically, that was something that we truly believe and something that's always kept us going. I think with having Eloy Casagrande in the band stepped the band up also, was definitely a big part in creating that energy and keeping the energy of the band, and being really relevant. He's super young, he's determined, and he's one of the most incredible drummers I've ever seen play. So this helps, tremendously because it's really contagious, this energy, so
Yeah.
it goes into the, guitar work, with Andreas. It's like, man, I got to push myself, like even further, not have,
Yeah.
this kid do everything. And I have to push myself vocally, and try to find something creative. And, this is just, what makes it really fun for us is to really create and to shock ourselves. Like, at the end of the day, like, oh my God, like, what have we done? We have to play these songs live,
Yes.
and that's, and laugh about it, because we were saying the same thing with Machine Messiah, and it just ended up being such a fantastic touring experience. And so now we're back at it, like preparing for this tour, giving ourselves enough time to do that. So we come off and just really blow people's heads off.
Well, you've definitely done that. Look, I do a lot of swimming, and I'm listening to the album because I've got some headphones I can listen to whenever I'm swimming, and I've been listening to it for about a month actually.
Oh,
It's
nice.
got to be said. So I've gotten used to it, and yeah, I won't say it surprised me because I know you guys are an outstanding band, and you're originals at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, it's vicious is the thing, and that's
Yeah,
great.
it's pretty. I mean, it's great because I mean, you got to hear the whole album in its entirety, because
Hmm.
I think people definitely be able to make more sense of it once they hear it all together. But I mean, the singles that we've been releasing are the heaviest, thrashiest
Yeah.
songs. So I mean, the feedback has been great, but yeah, when you put them together, I'm just like, oh man,
Hmm.
it's like relentlessly like just like thrashing going on. So it's a good feeling, that
Hmm.
we wanted to really represent that.
Tell me about Jens Bogren because I know you did the last album with him, but is he, when you're working with him, does he, like a lot of these guys, like George Martin from the Beatles, this sort of thing, does he become kind of like a fifth member, really integral to the quality of the sound that you're making?
I would think so. I mean, a lot of what we write is done before we get to the studio, but there are a lot of things that are done once we're there with the help of Jens and his ideas. He usually has the demo way ahead of time of stuff that we're going to do before we get there. So once we get there, he already has been able to have ideas, like a list, literally a list of ideas that he felt on certain songs.
Mm.
He takes his work very seriously, and that's what's great about working with him. So he does come in with great ideas, where you don't feel like, oh, wait a minute, Jens, you're stepping on toes here. It's like really like that's a great idea, and he explains why
Mm.
these parts should be added, or at least try certain elements to add to the song, and it all 99% of the time makes sense.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's, for us, the comfort level is just fantastic to work with him.
Mm. Yeah, and look, I haven't had an opportunity to really dive into the lyrical theme, so I guess I'll ask that question now. Were there any lyrical themes that you decided to address specifically for the album?
Yeah, I mean, at the time of writing it, it was like really getting a lot of messages from different groups working with organizations within the Amazon that were trying to help the native people maintain their land, and the fight and struggle that they have of having their land taken from them, and
Mm,
also it being burned and them being murdered. And
yeah,
so I wanted to really write a song about that, Guardians of Earth, and really give them a voice, so people can really get their head around of what's happening, because the lawlessness that exists in the
yeah,
Amazon,
yeah,
a lot of things people are trying to get away with, and they are getting away with, and this is, something that has to be stopped. And that can stop once people realize that it's going on, because it's a very remote place. You might know, like the Outback as well. It's
yeah,
like
absolutely,
you
yeah,
don't, and so it's how do you regulate that? It's like people don't realize there's no police there. There's no, so these laws have to be enforced somehow, and
mm,
people need to know about what's happening. This murder of native people.
yeah, yeah. I'm hearing you, mate. Yeah, and I've done a little bit of reading on it, and I realised not too long ago how lawless it actually was. To your exact point there,
Right.
and it's bloody awful, mate. I mean, most of these people, these indigenous people, are just trying to raise families and lead lives that
Right.
they've been leading for thousands of years in some cases, but following the money and trade of various nefarious bloody things, mate. Their society is being infringed upon, and it's so great that you're able to raise some awareness of it through heavy metal. Because I think heavy,
Definitely.
yeah,
Oh yeah, I mean, especially, through heavy metal, and through music in general, it has such a powerful force,
mm,
in the world, because a lot of times it's very honest.
mm. Hey, look, I've got to make this point. I've always felt that you've handled yourself really well in public and in interviews. I've read a lot of your interviews, listened to a lot of podcasts that you've appeared on, and you have a reputation as one of the nicest fellas in the biz. But I've got to ask, have you ever lost your temper or gotten really frustrated with somebody in an interview or in public? Because I just can't. I've never heard it. So,
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's happened, but it's a rarity. I mean, it would take a lot, but I'm definitely not happy when it does happen, because I don't feel good about myself. So that's why I usually don't like to have that happen.
yeah,
Just really try to maintain myself. And, there's a lot of people that we were representing. So,
oh yeah,
there's a whole, I feel a lot of times, that responsibility, especially like for Brazil, I really want to put a good light on that,
mm,
on them. And I feel like I'm a representative there of coming from there, being in a Brazilian band. And for myself and my family, I have a 10-year-old, and I'm definitely not that type of person, even though people might think that just because of how I look.
mm.
Um, but I definitely love breaking stereotypes.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, yeah. And did you feel? I know. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, or don't have to answer it if you don't want. But I think you live in Brazil or Sao Paulo, as you have done for a long time. And do you still feel like an expatriate living in a foreign country, or do you feel like as though you're part, you're sort of halfway to becoming Brazilian, so to speak?
Oh yeah, I mean, now I moved from Brazil about a year ago. Now I live in Los Angeles,
Uh huh.
California. And but whenever I'm there in Brazil, I really feel like I'm, a Brazilian there, and they feel that too. I mean, it's been, I mean, it was there for so long, and I speak Portuguese, and they were just so inviting,
Mm.
and I. I was such a part of just so many very significant events that were happening there within Brazil, and so I definitely feel uh, very native there for sure.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So what's been, you're a fellow that came from Cleveland, I think originally. I think you were born in Cleveland.
Hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. And you joined at the time one of the biggest heavy metal bands in the world. So one would think that you probably got a lot of ways that you could answer this question. But what do you think has been your biggest challenge? Because as I say, you just seem to have handled everything so well.
I think the biggest challenge was just always uh, it's usually myself. Myself was challenge. Just really keeping in a very positive mindset. Um, but there were a lot of ups and downs this band as far as since I've been in it. And I mean, I ended up in the band because of a very big down.
Yeah.
And that up, if you leave and maintaining and staying together, it's, um, there's a lot of things that come to mind in your own head, like self-doubt that can put you down. There's a lot of old fans that were just like not happy, and pretty much cutting that can really add to your self-esteem as well.
Yeah.
But just really beating that, like staying positive, staying around people who are very positive, helped a lot. From being sucked into some type of a depression, I could possibly. But like I said, it was great to be around very positive people, being honest with myself, and being positive, about what I was doing and believing in what I was doing. So that helped tremendously.
Look, surely to goodness, and I've spoken to Andreas about this, but surely to bloody goodness, the questions about Max and all this stuff, because we're going back well over 20 years ago now, surely they've stopped, but I imagine they haven't.
No, I think for some people it's hard for them to really move on. I mean, it's hard for people to change in general. For the fact that they're fearful of change, because of the unexpected when changing. But it's it's hard for certain people, but that's okay. I mean, it's not where we're at musically, and thank God that we were able to move forward and not only rely on the past. But I mean, I think it's natural for certain people that they gravitate to something that they've known from the past, and maybe then that's just where they like to have their head,
Where
like
they're
there.
at, yeah.
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 And I mean, I never wanted to be in that position, just because I mean, I'm an artist, and for me it's important to really explore and to evolve, and change is actually necessary. And that's something that's happening in all of our lives. So I accept it and go with it and live within the moments that are happening now. And so I don't really have to worry too much about. I don't worry too much about other people and them being trapped with the past. That's it's just something I do want to be a part of or be near that.
Yeah, it's a good perspective because you don't know what people are thinking and what their life experience is right up to the moment that they come to an interview or a fan or what have you, have an interaction, and they bring up these sorts of things. And I can imagine it must have been frustrating in years gone by. But look,
I mean, it was definitely frustrating, and then I saw it was frustrating for the guys. Like people forget that Igor was in the. I played with him for 9 years.
yeah,
And then he was getting asked these questions too, and it was frustrating for him and for. I mean, yeah, they're going to be there, those questions and everything, but I like I said, for us, it was just important to write music, to tour, to play, so we have other things to talk about.
yeah. Well, look, as you know, mate, Sepultura has always had a very strong fan base here in Australia. And look, I was in the audience in 1999 when you came down here, your first gigs in Australia, if I'm not mistaken. And I never questioned it, and I don't think anybody around me ever questioned it. Your presence, you were the guy, you were taking it on, and I think the band evolved into something considerably meaner in some respects, especially recently. So, I guess that's the next question for you: is, mate, when can we see you guys again?
Oh yeah, I mean, hopefully it will be this year. I mean, we plan on after the festivals in summer to go somewhere in that area of the world. So hopefully we can lock down something great. I would love to go there this year. But we are definitely planning on going back. It was a fantastic time the last time we were there with Death Angel.
Yeah, killer gigs, by the way.
That's
Yep.
so much fun, and yeah, we definitely need to come back, and we love the support from Australia, and it's always above and beyond, and
Good to hear.
yeah, really looking forward to it.
Killer. All right, mate. I'll let you get to the next one. Thanks so much for making the
All
music that
right,
you have. Good luck with everything, eh?
thank you for this interview. Appreciate it.
No worries, mate. All the best.
All right, cheers.
Thank
Bye.
you. Catch ya. You have been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and my name is Andrew Mackay-Smith. Hope you enjoyed that one there. That was Derrick Green from Sepultura. Thanks so much for listening.